Okay, Rabbi, welcome. Chag Sameach, right? We say because still we have the belated holiday of Lag BaOmer still lingering on. The cocktails of the Lag BaOmer still are lingering. According to Rabbi Tam says, right, that it's not night until 72 minutes have elapsed after the sun has gone down. So therefore, it's still not night, according to Rabbi Tam. Nevertheless, Rabbi, we have to say that it says in Pirkeh Avot something interesting. רבן גמליאל, בנו של רבי יהודה הנשיא אומר, יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ, שהגיע את שניהם משכחת עוון, וכל תורה שאין עימה מלאכה, סופה בטלה וגוררת עוון. וכל המלים עם הציבור, that's something else. So it says over here, right, the Rabban Gamliel was the son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, right? This is the Rabban Gamliel number 2, junior, right? Rabban Gamliel junior, that was also a senior one, that was before him. Nevertheless, he tells us one thing, right? That it's good when a person does Torah. It's good that there should also be derech eretz. What does that mean, derech eretz? It also should have some kind of a job, some kind of a way to make money, right? Some kind of a profession, some kind of a trade, right? Living, whatever you want to call it. So he says that if a person has both of these, Torah and a profession, so that gives him a good life. Right? He's not going to come to sin so readily. Why is that? Because the Torah protects him from sinning. But if he learns Torah all day, right, it's not going to be good like that. He should also have some kind of profession. Why is that? Because if he doesn't, he's going to come in the end to steal, right? What does that mean? That he's not going to have any money. So in order to support his habit of learning Torah, he's going to have to now steal from people in order to continue learning. Where's he going to get the money from? That's what he's saying, right? That's the idea. So according to this, right, the proper way to do in Judaism is to have half this, half that, right? Half Torah and half profession. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're doing good, right? That's the best way to live. We call that in Hebrew derech hamelech. You know what that means? The way of the king, right? The real way, the good way, right? The best way. Creme de la creme. But the truth is that we find also later on in Pirkei Avot something which seems to contradict that, right? The next chapter, right? Chapter 3. This was chapter 2. So it says over there, Rabbi Nechemia ben Akana Omer, כל המקבל עליו עול תורה, מעבירים ממנו עול מלכות ועול דרך ארץ. וכל הפורק ממנו עול תורה, נותנים לו עליו עול מלכות ועול דרך ארץ. So here it says, right, that what? That if a person accepts upon himself the yoke of the Torah, right? So they now exempt him from the responsibilities of earning a living, having a profession, having a trade, all kinds of things like this, right? But if he takes away from himself the yoke, removes the yoke of the Torah upon himself, so then what happens is that now they place upon him the yoke, the yoke of derech eretz, making a living, and also the yoke of the malchut, right? What does that mean, the yoke of the malchut? This means that the government will also now put all kinds of things upon him, taxes, IRS, parking violations, moving violations, right? Points on the license, then the insurance gets more expensive, all kinds of things like this, right? So you're paying. They know how to get you, right? The government knows how to get you.
Oh yeah. They extort you.
Uncle Sam.
Extort. Scum of the earth.
Not Uncle Sam. It's the local government. Not the federal government.
Okay, I got you. So
The scum.
this is what we're talking about, Rabbi.
Terry. Scum.
So according to this, though, it comes out from this teaching, not like the first teaching that we said. What's the difference between this and that? According to this, apparently, a person can totally remove the yoke of parnasah, of making a living, by studying Torah all day, right? As opposed to the first opinion, which seems to be saying just the opposite, right? You cannot do that. You should have half and half, a little bit work, a little bit Torah, a lot of work, a lot of Torah, whatever it is, right? But half 50-50, something like that. And then you're going to be much better like that. But if you're going to, right, this is what the Rambam says also, by the way. The Rambam goes according to the first opinion. What does he write in his work, Mishneh Torah? That a person should divide up his time for 24 hours, right? You know this, the Rambam, the famous Rambam. Sleep 8 hours a day, work 8 hours a day, and learn Torah for 8 hours a day.
I like Rambam because he was very practical.
Very practical, right? Down to earth.
He wasn't a fanatic.
Down to earth, right? Yeah. So he's telling you, right, like the first opinion, like Rabban Gamliel. But according to the second opinion, it's not like that, right? A person can learn all day and forget about parnasah, forget about making a living, forget about all these things, right? Leave it aside. The truth is that the Rambam himself, by the way, also brings down this opinion as well. People, by the way, miss this. They don't see where the Rambam is. One day when I was a young student, right, whatever, so taught me my rabbi. He pulled out the Rambam. He told me, he says, you know what, I'm going to show you now the other side of the Rambam, which contradicts that. So where did he show me,
Was
right?
this in Israel?
This was in New York.
Rabbi Avot?
No, before that. You know, the other guy, you know. You know what I'm talking about.
The other character.
Not Usher. Really?
Yeah. So he pulls out the Rambam, and he shows me what? That it says in the laws of Shemitah Be'ovel, in the Rambam, which is towards the ends of the Rambam, it says over there like the second opinion. Seems to contradict himself as well. What does it say over there? That not only the Levim, the Levites, right, are sanctified to work for God, but also anybody who wants to sanctify himself like the Levim, he can also work for Hashem full time, become inducted into become like a Levi. Serve God all day and not work. Remove from himself the yoke of working, the yoke of the government as well. They weren't able to touch him. He's too busy learning Torah all day. So what happens is, right, that the Rambam says himself that anybody can do that. Any Jew can do this kind of thing, making this kind of, and Hashem will support him. He'll get supported. He says he'll have enough money to survive, to get by, to finish the month. No problem. He'll have enough. That's what the Rambam says. So, obviously, right, the question arises, why do we have two opinions here in the Pirkeh Avot?
Yeah.
And also we have two different opinions in the Rambam as well. So, Pirkeh Avot contradicts itself, and the Rambam also contradicts himself.
Well, why can't the Rambam have both opinions?
So, but the problem is, which one do we go like,
To each his own.
You know what I mean? To each his
You
own.
can-
To each his
To
own.
work and
Ah. Yeah, but the problem is, according to the first opinion, you can't have to each his own, right? When you do like the second opinion, you're doing bad. That's something bad. You know what I mean? This is the problem. So, how do we solve this problem, right? How do we reconcile? Before I give you a reconciliation, the truth is, right, that it's really close to what the David said, to each his own, right? But we have to understand what that means. What does that mean, to each his own? How does a person choose that, right? How do you resolve that problem, this dilemma? So the truth is, right, we also have the same argument brought down in a different place as well. Where is that in the Gemara also, right? Where is that? Masechet Brachot, Yud Daled, right? It says over there the same thing. What does that mean? You have two different opinions over there. Now we're talking about Rabbi Shimon, right? Ben Yochai, because it's still Lag Bomer, right? To the last minutes of Lag Bomer, before Lag Bomer goes out. So the truth is, right, it's a dispute over there also between Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai, and Rabbi Ishmael. Right? Two different rabbis over there. So it says Rabbi Shimon, what should a person do? How should he conduct his life? He should sit and learn Torah all day. That's what Rabbi Shimon says, right? Forget about the work, forget about all the stuff, right? Relieve yourself from all that stuff, right? Release yourself. Abandon that stuff. Sit and learn Torah all day. That's the best way to do. That's what Rabbi Shimon says, right? Comes Rabbi Ishmael and argues with him over there. He says, no, a person should do, little by little, one foot over here, one foot over there. As we said, right? A little bit Torah, a little bit, right, derech eretz, to work a little bit, have a trade, to have a profession, right? So the Gemara says something interesting over there, by the way, about this machloket, about this argument. The question also over there arises, right? Which is the halacha? Do we go like Rabbi Shimon or do we go like Rabbi Ishmael? Right, so it says over there in the Gemara something interesting. That many tried to do like Rabbi Shimon, right, and it didn't work for them. They tried to do like Rabbi Shimon. They wanted to be like Mr. Holy, Mr. Levite, right, to sanctify yourself to the service of God. But you know what it is? When they tried, it didn't work for them. What does that mean? They fell into the poorhouse, right, and they couldn't support themselves.
Wow.
That's what happened. So what happens is, right, that what is it trying to tell you over there? Apparently, it's trying to tell you. It's trying to tell you like this, right? That for most people, they shouldn't do like Rabbi Shimon. It's not for most people like that. It's, as David said, right? It's a little bit of extreme, whatever, So what happens is, right, that for most people, the best way is to do 50-50, or 30-80, 70-20, whatever it is, right? Split it up into two different right situations. Do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that. But when a person tries, right, most people, if they try to do like Rabbi Shimon, they may wind up, falling on their face, right? Boop. Not going to work for them.
Does it elaborate if Rabbi Shimon went about it the right way, or?
What does that mean? What's the question? Can you elaborate your question? Can you
Maybe
define?
He didn't go about it.
No, Rabbi Shimon himself, that's what he did,
Yeah.
We're talking about other people that tried to do like him, but it didn't work for them. It doesn't work for everybody. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So here again, right, we see the same idea, right? We have the same contradiction, the same machloket that we find in the Pirkeh Avot, we find it in the Gemara, we find it in the Rambam. Right? Also, the Rambam, right, elaborates also on this, on his Perush commentary on the Mishnayot, on the Mishnah. He says over there, the Rambam, that Talmid Chacham should not do that, right? To study Torah all day and not work, to have a profession. You know why? Because it's going to make a chilul Hashem. It's going to desecrate the name of God. What does that mean? The people are going to say, oh, this rabbi, he's a beggar. He goes around begging for money. He doesn't have what to support himself, right? And they're going to say, I know this poor, pathetic. He's so pathetic. He's a Torah scholar and he has to go begging for money. What a disgrace, What a shame to do such a thing like that. That's what it says in the Rambam. So therefore, it says the Rambam over there that a person, Talmid Chacham, should not do that, right? Because it desecrates the name of God. It lowers the respect for the rabbis, because the rabbis are always like, money, 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 money. Please give me. So it makes them look like beggars, schnorrers. You know what that means? Mark, schnorrer, right? You know what this is, schnorrer, right? So that's the idea. So the Rambam says,
Not every holy person is fortunate enough to fall into a position where the community will respect him to the point where they'll support him while he's learning Torah.
Right. That's exactly what the Rambam is saying.
Yeah.
The Rambam is saying is that you're going to look like a fool, because people are going to say, if he's so holy, why can't God support him, You know what I mean? Why does he have to go around begging for money? This is what we're saying. That's what the Rambam is saying. On the other hand, who said the Rambam in a different place says differently, that a person is allowed to do that. So if that's the case, right? What's going on? What is the halakha? How do we do? How do we reconcile this question, right? So the truth is, there's the famous saying, right? Different strokes for different folks. That's what we said, right? So the question is like this: the truth is that these two opinions are upheld by different groups of people, different type of person, right? As we said, in the Gemara it tells you, Masechet Brachot, that most people cannot do like Rabbi Shimon. It's too extreme for them. It's too high. But those chosen few who really devote themselves to the service of God, they can do it. So the question is why? What's the difference between this guy and this guy? What? With discrimination? All men are created equal, right, Mark? That's the way it is, no? Right?
All men are created.
All men are created. That's what it says in the Constitution, no?
Not the Constitution.
The preamble?
The Declaration of Independence.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay. So what's the story?
We created equal.
So the rabbi used to tell us, Rabbeinu Maran used to tell us like this. My rabbi, Rav Ovadia, used to tell us. There's two different types of people in the world, right? We have people who are from Olam HaSiyah, and then we have from people Olam HaAtzilut. What is Atzilut and what is Asiyah? What does it mean, right? These are Kabbalistic terms, right? According to the Kabbalah, there's different worlds, different spiritual worlds. A person ascends, descends, goes up, goes down, these worlds, in the things that he does in his life. So Olam HaTzilut, this is the highest level, the most spiritual level, where, like you shed your bodily, desires and you just become totally spiritual, like an angel. Olam HaSiyah, this is the lowest level on the earth, earthly, attached to the earth, So here, a person has to do with his hands. He's got to do physical labor, So there are souls, the rabbi used to tell us, right, that are from the Olam HaTzilut, from the highest world. Everything is spiritual. These people are totally spiritual. You can't get them to do any physical, labor, because they're not connected to that. And even if they do it in a very poor way, right? They don't get anything done. They're very unproductive. They're just not cut out for physical labor.
How would you rate
Understand?
Rabbi Lazari is being on what level? Because I remember he was doing stock market at one point.
Yes.
That was his.
Yes.
Even though he told me, David, don't envy me. I haven't been able to make the right trade all my career. Once But that was his thing.
Yeah, he always had his hands in something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way he was.
Yeah.
So I guess he falls into the category of most people, they need to have something also. You know what I mean? That's the idea.
But he's a knowledgeable guy, right? When it comes to
Sure. He's a rabbi, Yeah. So the question is like this, right? What are we talking about? As we said, we're talking about two different types of people. So therefore, what does that mean? Practically speaking, right? What happens is that sometimes a person is like a simple Jew. Just a regular guy, a little bit observant, a little bit this, a little bit that, one foot over here, one foot over there, one of these guys. But what happens is that all of a sudden he has a son, and this son is like a spiritual giant, He's a Messiah, as you used to say, He's a Messiah, this guy.
Yeah.
Turns out to be a Messiah, comes a spiritually giant, but his father is a regular, Jew, like that works day and night, simple Jew. So the question is now, right, like this: what do you do in a situation like that? So according to what we said, right, that there are people who are zocheh, they merit to have children with a very high soul, with a high neshama. So these kinds of people who have a high neshama, who have a high soul, what happens is, right, that they need to be in the world of Torah. And if you don't have such a high soul like that, so what should you do if you're his father, let's say, right? You should help him because he's not going to be like you. You have to understand, there's different kinds of neshamot in this world. There's high souls and there's regular souls. There's souls who are more attached to the earth. There are souls which are like totally in the heavens. Yeah. That's the way it is. So a person has to know.
You told me that over 20 years ago. You said,
David,
look.
Yeah.
Not every Jew can do what I'm doing.
That's the idea. Yeah. But we have to also discuss that, right? Sometimes there's an exception to that too. I'll explain to you what that means. In general, that's really the case. Most Jews can't do like that, right? In most cases. So, a person, right, who has somebody like that in the family, you should help him, to assist him to go elevate himself in Torah. Assist him financially, whatever it is, right? Morally assist him, whatever it is. Give him money, whatever it is you can do, because you're also getting the zechut, the merit of his learning. The fact that you're helping him, right, to go up and ascend in the levels of Torah, help him out, because you're not like that, so you're not cut out for that, but you get a share of that, what he does by helping him. So a person who has somebody like that in the family or in the community, you should help him like a person like that, to help him to ascend, because you're also getting a share of that ascension that he's doing for his neshama. That's the idea all the time. The truth is, right, regarding what you said. So what does that mean? The answer is like this, Rabotai. There's also brought down in the poskim, in the halakhic authorities, discussion about this Rambam, about these two opinions, right? So you know what they say? The more contemporary poskim, what they say is like this, right? That nowadays, we're talking about Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Ovadia Yosef, Moren Rabbeinu, Rav Ovadia. They write in their books about this whole discussion. You know what their conclusion is? In our generation, they say that person who really wants to be a Talmid Chacham, wants to be a Torah scholar, there's no way for him to have a profession as well. You can't do both, jack of all trades, both, because you're not going to get either one so well.
Yeah.
Today you have to be like specialized. You have to go into one thing and be the best at it. Same thing applies to music. When you're a musician, you have to be a perfectionist. You know what I mean? That means you got to devote your whole life to that. Otherwise, you're not going to be the best. You're not going to be Randy Rhoads by playing 2 hours a day. You got to play 12 hours a day. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. You're not going to be the concert pianist by playing on the side. You got to do it religiously.
You'll be Liberace.
I was going to say that. You read my mind. You understand? So that's the way it is. A person has, you know what they say, right? That the great musicians, when they record like one song, they do like 500 times until everything is perfect. A lot of takes until everything is like picture perfect. Nothing should be out of place. One little thing, one little deviation somewhere. Everything is perfect. The voice, the tracks, everything, background, this, that, accompaniment, blah blah blah. Everything, the drums, percussion, bass, everything has to be perfect. Otherwise, it's no good. That's the way it is today, right? Everybody has to be specialized. So therefore, Rabbi, since we're not able to anymore, there were in the old days rabbis who used to have also profession and also to be great rabbis. Today, it's not possible to do both. That's what they say, contemporary rabbis. So therefore, if a person really wants to devote himself to studying Torah, he has to get away from business. He has to get away from profession, because there's no way, right, to become both a big rabbi and also a big businessman. You're not going to get both of these things. It's not going to be like that, right? One is going to suffer at the hands of the other. So you're probably going to be poor with both of them. You know what I mean? You're going to wind up being half-baked a rabbi and also a half-baked businessman. You know, whatever, right? Whatever profession is. That's the way it is today. We don't really have the strength like they used to have in the old days. That, concentration, that ability to, to really focus into something, even doing it part-time. We don't have the strength to do that. We have to be totally devoted to it. Otherwise, you cannot do it. That's the idea. So, from this, right, there's also, regarding what you said, I wanted to point out also this idea, that regarding what we said, you mentioned this, David. You mentioned that not everybody's able to do that. So the truth is, right, that we find a story in the Tanakh, we find in the Bible a story. Where is this brought down, the story? It's brought down in the book of Kings. Part 2, right? Part 2, volume 2 of Kings. What's brought down there? A very interesting story about Chizkiyahu Melech, right? There was one king. His name was Chizkiyahu, right? He was from the dynasty of King David. So this king was a very righteous king, very big tzaddik, big scholar also, big chacham. Right? He had everything going for him. He was like a messiah, really, truly, like a Mashiach. So what happened was that this king decided to do something very drastic. Right? What did he do? Right? Today nobody does these kinds of things. Just the opposite they do, right? What he did, everybody's doing just the opposite of that. So what did he do? It says in the Gemara that he took a sword, right? And he stuck it into the ground in front of the study hall, where they study in the yeshiva there, right? He stuck it into the ground. He said, whoever is going to leave the yeshiva, I want everybody to study Torah. Day and night. Everybody. Whoever is going to step out of the yeshiva, the sword is ready to cut his throat, slit his throat. To cut his head off. That's what he said.
What he said.
Huh? Why did he do that? What's the reason why he did such a thing, such a drastic measure like this? So you know what the reason is? Because his father, right, who was Ahaz, was a big Rasha. So what Ahaz did was, he took away all the Torah from Am Yisrael. He closed down all the yeshivot. He was communist, this kind of guy, you know what I mean? Communism. Closed down the yeshivot, closed down the shuls, closed down everything, right? There's no God, there's no Torah, nothing. Only idolatry. So because of that, right, he destroyed much of the Torah that was in the Jewish people. Nothing was left anymore, right? Everybody became a heretic. Everybody became a loser, churchgoer. That's what they were, going to church, watching, those guys on the TV. What are they called? Those ministers on TV. That's all they had. They had nothing else.
700 Club.
Right, those guys. You know what I mean? They had nowhere else to get their spiritual information from. They had to go to those guys.
700 Club actually is. Pat Robertson.
You like that, right?
No,
So
I like him because he's very.
More honest?
No, he also talks about tsunamis not just coming for nothing.
doomsday predictions.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
no.
good.
We all talk about that. Everybody's talking about it.
Okay.
End times, right?
Okay.
No, they come down very hard on him, the
Right.
Christian community, because he actually says that people deserve to be swept away. Like God is punishing people.
Okay, so you understand what I'm saying is like this, right? That's all they had. So because of that, once Chizkiyahu took control, took the kingdom, he was his son. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, his father was a Rasha, and he was a tzaddik. So therefore, he had to do something drastic to bring back the knowledge of the Torah to the Jewish people. Everybody became ignorant. They were all like totally secular, totally, Hellenized Jews.
So even though we accepted the Torah, in the interim, there were times.
Yeah, there were. It was totally forgotten. Yeah.
Where we abandoned.
Yes. There were many times like that. So this was one of those periods, and what happened was that because people were so scared, of the king. The king is scary, Who's gonna mess with the king? This is not Trump, You can impeach him. You can't impeach this guy. You know what I'm saying? He's there for life. Nothing you can do about that, right? There's no democracy. There's no Speaker of the House. There's no nothing. Whatever he says, that's the one still goes.
The last president we're gonna have.
At least they'll go out with a bang. Okay. So, so what happened was, that Chizkiyahu Melech, by doing this, what he did was he put everybody in yeshiva. Everybody became yeshiva boy. Can you imagine? No exceptions. Everybody's in yeshiva. Right? So what happened was, after several years like this, they became very proficient in Torah. Can you imagine? They were sitting and learning Torah all day, non-stop. No work, no profession, no nothing.
Wow.
So because of that, and he had the money to support them, by the way, also, right? He had money, He had gold, he had reserves. The king has lots of reserves, They have a lot of money, they have a lot of cash. Every government, has like big-time reserves stored up for emergencies,
Yeah.
That's the way it is. I heard that the Israeli government, they have a huge reserve of money, cash, dollars, stored up. We're talking about like very big reserves. Huge. We're talking about like billions of dollars.
Okay, so they could
can you imagine?
They could bankrupt the
Can you
United
imagine?
States if they demand the gold.
That's the way it is.
If they demand the gold.
You have to have reserves, So he also had, and he was spending the money for Torah. That's what he did. So what happened was, that they say that generation becomes so knowledgeable in Torah. You know how knowledgeable they were? Even the youngest children, like 7-year-old kid, in first grader, he was expert in all the halakha, all the laws. That's the way they were. Every child was a genius. Every child was a prodigy.
I thought when you said he decided to do something drastic, it was going to backfire.
No, it actually succeeded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I thought the moral of the story was going to be that it's not for everybody.
Yes.
And he was going to bestow it upon people.
It's a good point. It's a very good point that you're mentioning this. You know why? Because I wanted to explain that point. That what? What do we see from this story, by the way? What do we learn from that? That technically speaking, it's possible to do such a thing like that. It is possible. So why did he do it and others did not? Because it was an emergency measure. In general, we don't live like that. That's not the way Jewish people live.
It also has to be forced upon you.
Yeah, it was forced. Yeah, that's he forced it.
Because your average person is not disciplined.
Right.
To do that.
By the way, you know what they do today? You can't force anybody today, right? It's a free country, You can't force anybody. So what do they do today? They pay them to come and to study. They pay them for that. If you don't pay today, they don't show up. That's the way it is. So, what does that mean, Rabbi? That Chizkiyahu Melech, what he did was an emergency measure. Sometimes this kind of measure is required to do. Also in our generation, something very similar. You know why? What's the reason why? Because Imach Shemo Hitler, he almost wiped out the Jewish people. When he killed the 6 million that he killed, he also killed the Torah as well. Because there was a lot of Torah over there in Europe. You know what I mean? All the Torah scholars over there. Either it was closed down, or they were killed, or they had to relocate, and because of that, it caused a great deal of loss in the spiritual level of Jewish people. And also, accompanied with that, there was also secular movements, this movement and that movement, communism, which was also a lot of Jews were involved with that. All kinds of things, isms like this, socialism, communism, this ism, that ism, all kinds of things like this. So what happened was, with all this secularism and this kind of ism and that, and to reform Jews. So what happened was that because of that, the Jewish people had abandoned the Torah, largely. In the last 70 years, we're talking about. 70 years ago, after the World War II, it was a very bad situation. You know how bad it was, right? They say that if a person, 50 years ago, or 60 years ago, would walk in Tel Aviv with a kippah, they probably would beat him up, like you said over there, on the street. Tel Aviv was like that. We're not talking about New York City. You go with a kippah, you get punched out.
Well, Tel Aviv is always a secular city.
Right, but now it's not like that anymore. Now there's a lot of people over there with kippot. There's a lot of yeshivot over there. There's kollels. There's a lot of shuls there now. It's not what it used to be anymore. In those days, there was a hatred for the Jews. The Jews hated the Jews. Self-hating, like we said, right?
So if it's like that, then why did this guy Moshe Feiglin lose?
He's a loser.
I mean, he's a right-wing lunatic.
He's a loser. That's why. It's a whole story. We'll talk about that in the car. If you have a car. If not, talk about it in the street. Okay. So if your car is here, whatever. So the point is like this, right? That we see from there, Rabbi, that also here in our generation, what happened was that after the state of Israel, was already kicking and running, the rabbis of this generation also made such a movement like that today. That many of the children who were going to school, to yeshiva, they were telling them, go study Torah all day, don't come out and work. So therefore we have now a very large group of students, a huge group, all over the world, especially in Israel, that are studying Torah all day, non-stop. It's a big movement today, and this is why the Israeli government is so scared about that. They don't like that. So, what's the bottom line? That we're doing the same thing today, like Yechizkiyahu Melech did in his generation. Similar to that. But we're using other methods, right? We can't force anybody today to do anything, But we're using, methods of, inspiration. Let's put it this way, right? Inspiring them. You understand? So the point is that now we have also here Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, right? Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is on the side of what? Learning Torah all day. Right? So Rabbi Shimon, you know what it is, right? They say the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon most of the time. In halacha, we don't paskin like him. I made a video about that today. You can look at my video. You'll see, right, about that. Technically speaking, why we don't go like Rabbi Shimon. But the point is, right, why not? Because Rabbi Shimon was, in the world to come. He's already in this world, in the world to come. You know what I mean? Such a high level like that. A person was totally immersed in the holiness, totally immersed in the Torah, totally immersed in Kabbalah, in the mystical teachings of the Torah, esoteric teachings. A person like that, right? Everything he does is only for heaven. Nothing in this world. This world doesn't interest him so much. Right? So therefore, what does that mean? That Rabbi Shimon, as we said, most people couldn't do like Rabbi Shimon. So this means, right, that in the world to come, though, when we get to the times of Mashiach in the world to come, right, even the Rambam says, right, the whole point of what's the point of bringing Mashiach? What's our goal, by the way? To have Mashiach. What's the purpose of that? As you said, right, you got to get a purpose. You have to have a purpose, right? So what's the purpose of Mashiach? So what the Rambam says? What is the purpose of Mashiach? What, we should have like a rich kingdom or some kind of lots of military power, military prowess, be a superpower, rule over the world. Is that what we want from Mashiach? So the Rambam doesn't say like that, right? What does he say? The whole point of Mashiach is like this: that we want to have freedom from from being discriminated against the goyim. The goyim discriminate against us, right? They
want to be liberated.
Right, exactly. We want to be liberated from their subjugation of the goyim. They shouldn't come to you like that, and say what they said, and even more than that they do, right? That's the least of what they do. They do a lot more, right? As you found out in what happened in California and whatever, all these places. You know what's going on. I don't have to tell you. So the point is, right, that the subjugation of the goyim is going to end in the times of Mashiach. He's going to remove the yoke of the goyim from the Jewish people, and therefore, so for what? Why should we should have prestige? That's not the reason why. The reason is because we feel to sit and learn Torah all day. That's the idea. That's the whole point. We want to be able to sit and learn Torah all day without being hindered and bothered by all kinds of distractions. What are the distractions that we have? Number one is because the distraction of parnasah. We have to make a living. Right? You got to have income. This is what bothers us. Number one. Number two also bothers us Esav, right? The enemies of the Jews. They come and they play games with us. They try to discourage us from being in the Torah. They tell you, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like your friends. These guys. What's this for? What's that for? This is silly. They try to mock and deride. All these kinds of things. And they convince many Jews not to follow the ways of Torah because of their sharp tongue, their evil tongue. They try to which comes from the devil. The Satan. Their evil tongue. They tell you not to do this, not to do that. Oh, you don't have to do that anymore. It doesn't apply anymore. New Testament, no Testament, no Testament. They're no Testament. That's what it is, right? That's what they tell you. All these things are coming to distract us from serving Hashem. All these distractions. So therefore, right, what's going to be in time of Mashiach is that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to remove all that from us. What does that mean? He's going to kill the Satan first, right? The Satan is the one who's in charge of these guys, right? Those guys you've been on the street. These are people of Satan. That's what they are. So Kadosh Baruch Hu will kill Satan, and right, that means that also the people who are following him also will be destroyed as well. That's the way it is. You understand? So Rambam tells us, right, that's the whole goal. So what are we saying, Rabbi? That even though most people in this world were not able to do like Rabbi Shimon, they're not on that level, They're not from the Olam Atzilut, from the high world like that. But nevertheless, in the world to come, in times of Mashiach, and past that as well, right? So there, we're going to be doing like Rabbi Shimon. What does that mean? Number one is we're going to be studying Torah all day. From who? Who's going to be our rabbi? You know who's going to be a rabbi over there, right? Not me and not any other rabbi. You know what's going to be? It's going to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Hashem was going to teach us the Torah. Directly, we're going to learn from him. We're going to be sitting around, and he's going to teach us the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will teach us the secrets of the Torah, which are very powerful, very spiritual. And over there, the pleasure, the bliss that you have in that world is much greater than anything you can have over here. What do they say, right? Chazal regarding that? They say one moment of pleasure in the world to come is more than anything you can have the whole life that you have in the world. Pleasure, right? But whether you go to the hamburger joint, right, whatever it is, right?
We know that if our soul is going to be reincarnated into somebody else.
Well, the point is that wherever you go, in the end, right, you'll have what you need to have. That's the idea, That's the idea, It doesn't really matter which body you're in, this body or that body. The issue is, right, that you're getting what you deserve. That's the idea.
We believe in reincarnation, basically.
Of course, we're the ones who brought that in, right? We're the ones who the concept was brought by us. It wasn't brought by some copycats. Yeah, they're copycats. These people, you know what it is, right? They do all kinds of distortions.
The Indians been around.
So therefore, Rabbi, right, in the world to come, which is coming very soon, by the way, you should know, times of Mashiach are coming very soon.
Soon, I was just going to ask you. But
very, very soon, because we only have 200 years left, 200 plus years left.
Oh,
so, but you have to understand what that means. 200 is the end of Mashiach. So that means the beginning of Mashiach is going to be before that. You understand? It has to be a period of Mashiach as well. So therefore, it's going to be way before that. It's going to be a time of Mashiach. It's going to be a certain period of Mashiach. So therefore, Rabbi, we're going to go very soon into the mode of Rabbi Shimon. But meanwhile, now in this world, what do we do practically speaking, right? So the truth is, the Rambam. The Rambam says that if a person has a desire, if you see a person, right, whether he's your relative or your friend or your neighbor, Jewish guy, right, whatever, and he wants to serve God all day, he wants to go to the yeshiva and be the Torah scholar and being immersed in Torah all day. So a person like that, he has what to rely on, because the Rambam says, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will support him. He'll get his parnasah, he'll be supported. In the end, by the way, what happens to people who study Torah? They become rich. As we're promised, right, in the Chazal. It says in the Gemara, also in the Shulchan Aruch, brought down that if a person studied Torah when he was poor, like it says in Pirkeh Avot, we have it in Pirkeh Avot, right? If a person studied the Torah when he was poor, eventually he'll study Torah when he's rich. That's what's going to be with him. It's a guarantee. Brought down the Shulchan Aruch also. In the laws of Talmud Torah, brought down over there, that if a person studies Torah in this world and upholds the Torah, he'll also eventually become rich as well. We're not talking about the next world, we're talking about this world. That's the idea. So what does that mean, Rabbi? That the truth is that the wealth comes from the Torah. The best source of blessing is from the Torah. If a person attaches himself to the Torah, all the blessing comes from there. Right? That's the idea. So we have to, on the one hand, when a person, right, wants to immerse himself into Torah and be a Torah scholar, we should encourage him, we should help him, we should support him, do whatever we have to do, because we're also getting a stake in that, right? We're also getting a portion of that by supporting him. As it says, right, in the Poskim, brought down in the book of Moran Rabbeinu, Maran Shalom, it's brought down over there. If a person helps a Torah scholar to learn his Torah, it supports him, right? All the Torah that he learns, he also gets all that Torah, because he supported him. Can you imagine? 100% of what he learned, if he was supporting him 100%, he gets 100% of everything. Just like that person who learned Torah, he's also going to get 100% of that. All Torah that he learns. Why is that? Because you're supporting him for all his needs. If he's a wealthy man, he's able to do that. Now he's going to get all the Torah that he got. So therefore, we should encourage people like that. Don't try to discourage them. Don't try to limit them, put them into a cage. No, don't do that. Box him in, Don't box him in. Let him be whatever he wants to be. Right? Let him fly free, But, as we said, right, for most people though, this is not really the way that works for most people. What does that mean? That for most people, they need to also make some kind of a parnasah. They're not really on that level that they can sit and learn Torah all day. Because if they do, they're going to wind up in the poorhouse sometimes, lo aleinu, right? God forbid. So, so therefore, a person has to know his own level. He has to know his where he is, right? What he's made out of. What kind of material is a person made out of? Once you know what you're made out of, and you know what you really want in life, if you have a real desire for Torah, your desire is very, very strong, and you feel confident, that you can do that. So try it out. Go for it. Worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work, you can come back, and go back to your old life. But you gotta try it. If you really want to try it, you gotta try it. Why not? If you really have a desire for that, nobody can stop you. Nobody can tell you, why are you doing that? You're being a freeloader. Like what they call them in Israel, right? These secular people over there. They call them parasites. Parazitim. Parasitev, That's what they call them. Why? Because they say, you're living off us. Like we're supporting you, you're parasites. God forbid, right? That a person should call a Torah scholar a parasite. Some kind of disgraceful thing like this. They say, right, that a person who does this, who calls derogatory names like this to Torah scholars, he has no portion in the world to come. Because that means that he doesn't realize that the whole world, even this world now, stands on the merit of that person who's studying Torah. If there's no Torah, the world cannot stand like that. Can you imagine? So therefore, we need to have Torah study all the time going on. Otherwise, if there's no Torah study, there's no world. Where we see this, right? It's a pasuk, it's a verse in the Bible, right? Im lo briti yomam v'layla chukot hashamayim v'aretz lo samti. This is a pasuk, right? What does that verse mean? It means that if it wasn't for my covenant, what does that mean? The Torah. Day and night, people are studying day and night. I wouldn't have made the world. The world cannot stand like that. The world will be destroyed. These wicked people, try to discourage you from learning Torah. They say, go get a job, this and that. Why are you doing that? You Jews, this and that, whatever. Or you religious people, you fanatics. All kinds of things like this. A person has to run away from these people. These people are bad. They're bad characters. They're destroying the world. Why is that? Because they're diminishing the study of the Torah. Whoever diminishes the Torah is diminishing the world as well. Right? So therefore, Rabbi, whether you do like Rabbi Shimon or whether you do like Rabbi Ishmael, right? They say, right? As the Gemara says, we're going to stop with this, right? There's a dictum brought down in the Gemara. You know what they say? Echad amarbeh ve'echad amamit ubilbad sheichaveni bo l'shamayim. What does that mean? Whether you study a lot of Torah or you study only a little bit, depending on how much time you have, right? The most important thing is your heart should be towards the heaven. What does that mean? You should have an intention to do the mitzvah, to serve God,
right,
to do the will of God. That's the idea. Whether you're doing a lot or whether you're doing a little doesn't make any difference. What does that mean? That if you don't have time to do a lot, at least do a little also. But if a person has time to do a lot, you should do a lot, right? That's something else. That's a different story.
Rabbi, I wanted to ask you something. What was the last time you saw Rabbi Lazar?
Talk about that after. We'll talk about it. Sure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
is there any way we can do a study group with him? I would be curious.
I'll talk to you about that.
Like we used to.
The good old days.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Rabbi,
remember I used to go there just to crack the jokes? I got you involved.
I didn't know that.
You became serious about it.
Oh, okay.
And then I was goofing around all the time.
Right, so the point is, Rabbi, I'll finish off with, there's a midrash that bears out this point, right?
Yeah.
It says in midrash that if a person is working all day, right, he's a laborer, he labors all day, he works 8 hours a day, 9 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, let's say, whatever, right? He doesn't have time to study Torah so much.
Yeah.
So, a person like this, right, he has no choice. He's working like a whole day. 2 shifts, 3 shifts, What can he do to redeem himself? Besides the fact that he can support the Torah, as we said, right? He can give money. That's also good. But this midrash says something else, which is what it says, right? That a person goes to synagogue in the morning to pray Shachrit. He goes to synagogue in the evening to pray Mincha and Arvit.
Yes.
Well, let's say he doesn't go to synagogue, but he opens up these websites, whatever. He sees some rabbi talking there, right, whatever, saying some divrei Torah, some words of Torah. So it says like this, right? If a person hears one halakha in the morning, how long does it take to learn one halakha? 2 minutes, let's say, right? It take also longer, depending on how deep you go. But one halakha he learns in the morning, one halakha he learns in the evening when he comes to the shul again, or he opens up his phone and he starts to learn these halachot, right, whatever, from these sites, whatever they are. The point is, right, it says if he learns one in the morning and one in the evening, how long does it take? Could it be like 5 minutes? He's considered to be tzaddik gamur, right, perfectly righteous. Can you imagine a person like that? Because he's, according to his situation, he's doing the best he can. This is the best he can do because he's working all day. He has no choice. What can he do? So a person like that, one halakha in the morning, one halakha in the evening, tzaddik gamur is a perfectly righteous man. Can you imagine? So what does that mean? This bears out the idea, right? That it doesn't matter whether you do it a lot or little, as long as your heart is towards God, right? You're doing it for the sake of God, for the sake of heaven. That's the idea with that. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen. Chazak Baruch. Thanks for coming. God bless you. See you next week. Kol Tuv.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.